We're back here on our program, Jones and Company, and we are speaking with two young men from the Young Liberals of the Progressive Liberal Party. And we are talking about how we're going to move the Bahamas forward. And millennials are very frustrated. The vast majority of voters in the Bahamas are young people. Young people elect governments in the main. Not that elderly people like my friend here and people like myself are not important, but you are in the majority in the country. What is so appealing now to the Progressive Liberal Party, about the party, that would cause young people to want to support the Progressive Liberal Party?
What? You are cute.
Yeah, well, I'll take the first stab at that. As a young person, I think knowing the history of the Progressive Liberal Party, it shows you the difference in terms of compared to the Free National Movement. The philosophy of the Progressive Liberal Party talks about empowering the disenfranchised, the downtrodden, and wiping the tear or the proverbial tear from every eye. Mm-hmm. And I think that shows where the basis of the Progressive Liberal Party is history. Not to know your past is to gain insight in the future. And it shows the track record the Progressive Liberal Party has been able to empower our country, empower our people. And as a young person, to be looking at a country where we are now, where, as we stated in our first segment, that we want to be empowered, that we want economic revolution, that we want to be able to own a piece of this rock, to be able to build this economy. And the Progressive Liberal Party stands for those core fundamental principles that we will empower and impact the disenfranchised and allow these opportunities for you to build your country.
And if the FNM would tell you that their philosophy is not dissimilar, what would you say?
Not dissimilar? Well, I would be the first to attest that I'm not well versed with the Free National Movement philosophy. Now, I know it's based upon...
You don't understand it?
I understand it to a degree.
Ain't much to it.
What is it about?
Well, like, let me just build on what Q say, and I'll take a stab at the FNM philosophy. I think one of the things that will attract young Bahamians to the PLP is the fact that, from a developmental perspective, and I think Glenn has touched about it, that progressive development, not being afraid to tackle the historic or aging problems of the Bahamas. One of the things that we have to say to young people, look here, as an organization, we have brought you to independence, we've brought you political independence, but now we have to tackle the issue of the economy, and we cannot do it alone. We need the best and the brightest to help and walk with us. But when it comes to the FNM philosophy, you look at most of the black countries that would have been brought in by a independent government, reigned for about 25 years. At some point in time, there's a fatigue or resentment that begins to happen, and there birth new parties that become the alternative. I think a period of time, the FNM tried to portray themselves as this government in the sunshine, this transparent government, and people began to see them as the alternative to the PLP. There is a policy difference in these parties. One, I believe that the FNM believe in fiscal development, whilst the PLP believe in spending and stimulating the economy. The FNM believe in pulling back. The PLP believe in infrastructure development. I mean, Ingram was big on infrastructure development during the recession. But if you look at the recent debate, I think even Peter Turnquest confessed that the government won't be focusing as much on infrastructure development. And then you look at the social policies, where you have a more social-oriented party. You have a party focusing on improving governmental infrastructure. So you have policy differences, philosophy differences. You have a party that demonstrates itself as being a party of the people. You have a party that I believe is just a window dressing of the UBP, where and I think if you truthfully speak to any FNM, they would tell you their degree of frustration of the grip that the UBP past have on their party.
Yeah, but Latrae, Rahming, young people like yourself, you don't know anything about the UBP. Yeah, Quinton doesn't know anything about the UBP. You've not been around.
We lived under, haven't lived under,
you didn't live under the UBP. The UBP was long defunct when you were born.
You are living 40 years. You're 40?
Young people who are voting for or against governments, they don't know about the UBP, and a whole lot of them don't want. A whole lot of them don't want to hear about the UBP. They know what they see now.
I disagree with that. I believe that despite them not knowing about the UBP, they see the FNM as a party that protects the 1%. I mean, you could speak to anyone. You could speak to any young person when they see a sitting cabinet minister receiving contracts while in office. They understand that this is a party that will continue to protect the minority, that will respond very quickly to minorities, and so they understand that they may not know that they may not understand the historical relevance of the UBP, but they understand the philosophical commitment the FNM has to protecting that 1%, and that's why I think it's really important in exposing this a minority 1% of having campaigned for economic reform, because when you follow the money, you'll be able to follow why the policies are created the way they are.
Okay, based on what you said, right? I believe every generation should have its time. All right? He claims that my generation failed. Right?
I don't think so.
Your generation is on the verge of breaking out. What do you see as a way forward for your generation?
Well, I think my discouragement is this. I watch for when I used to be attached to the former PM. He would go into the family islands and he would funeralize these great Bahamians who born in an age where they had little education, little resources, but they did so much to develop the Bahamas. I cannot understand why my generation, more educated, more resources, more technologically advanced, face these great restraints. And I think it's because we live in a time where our social mobility is not heavily dependent on education. Until you could create a society where education is the instrument of advancement, you will continue to have a problem. So I believe that we have to find a way to have a conversation amongst ourselves as pairs, to say that, there was a generation before us that did less.
Yeah, but Mr. Rahming.
Did more with less than we're doing with more.
Mr. Rahming, this is different. Mr. Enos's generation is totally different from yours.
Yes.
These are different times. The world changed, and changed probably 3 times over the last 80 years. This is a different era.
Yeah, it's a different era.
Yes, we are operating. These are, though there have been paradigm shifts, and you do not expect you to operate in the same paradigm as they operated in. Hold on, let me make the point. We in the Bahamas seem not to want to open the society, open the Bahamas. We say it all the time, an underpopulated country, okay? We are underpopulated in the main. We are not welcoming to the newest Bahamians, all right? We seem not to want to give the newest Bahamians in our midst opportunities for their growth and development. And so hence there's a stagnancy taking place in the economy of the Bahamas.
Well, let me just say that my reference to that basically is to say to Mr. Aeneas that my generation should always look back at future generations who face difficulty, past generations that have faced difficulty as a source of strength that you could get through things, right? Now, I think that the reason why we have a difficulty integrating our economy is because a lot of Bahamians feel excluded from the economy. So until excluded, let me make my point, right? Until you can have an economy where people believe that they are part of the Bahamian economy, you're going to have a difficult time selling someone else to be part of it. If I don't feel like I'm advancing a part of the economy, then it's going to be very difficult because I don't feel secure.
Explain the level of exclusion that you're talking about.
Well, I mean, exclusion.
Because I mentioned earlier on the welcoming of new Bahamians.
I mean,
all right? People who believe that they ought to be entitled to citizenship, People who are born in the Bahamas do not have citizenship.
Well,
all right? And they believe that they are excluded. Now tell me what you mean by excluded.
When I say exclusion, I mean the ability to benefit from the economy.
How do you feel excluded?
No, I was making a general sense that the average Bahamian may have a problem welcoming persons into the economy from an integrated perspective because they believe that the economy don't accommodate them.
Tell me how you feel excluded then.
For example, if you go into a restaurant in Bahama, right, you see the manager is a foreigner, you see the assistant manager is a foreigner. So as long as Bahamian people believe that there are opportunities being seized by foreigners that they don't have, they will feel excluded from the economy.
But
aren't the majority of the young managers in Bahama and Atlantis and places such are Bahamians? You do not expect people to invest $4 billion in your economy. And not to be able to bring in some expertise.
But see, I think that opens up, but this is where I talk about innovation and opportunity. Think about the past, like I said. I'm a seeker of knowledge in terms of looking at the past of our country. Some of the most successful businessmen in our country have been persons that have pooled their wealth together. Case in point, you could call it the Sunshine Boys, the Bay Street Boys. Persons that have pooled their resources together, found a niche in the market and exploited it and made sure that they were beneficial and they were able to see financial means from it. This is something that I think a lot of young persons or millennial generations are overlooking. The ability of teaming up and partnering together to ensure that we can attain and own a piece of this economy in our country. And I think that is going to be one of the key parameters that any successful government must do to ensure that we inspire young persons to partner together, take a market. Look at yourself, Mr. Jones. You were a young person before. You realized, okay, that
so young.
Yes, definitely. And you realized that there was an opportunity in the journalistic field in the Bahamas that was vacant. I'm sure you did not do it on your own. You had advice from older persons, some of your peers, and you were able to make a move. This is what needs to be done. I love the whole mentorship program because you have to learn from past in order to be able to take your country forward. And I think that is how young persons are looking at it. Okay, I'm not involved in this economy. I go into restaurants, I see some foreigners, but this is an opportunity for yourself as a Bahamian to say, we need to own more of our economy. The government needs to ensure that more Bahamians own hotels in our country. The government needs to ensure that there are more industrial companies that are owned by Bahamians. Cut out the bureaucracy, cut out all the red tape to ensure that Bahamians have this opportunity. And as a progressive party, I'm confident that my party will feel much better that we give Bahamians this opportunity, and it did not, instead of not giving to them, and they were never a part of our economy.
Gentlemen, Jones talk about progress. There's a country called Singapore, you know. Singapore started its trek to independence the same time as the Bahamas and this region. All right? They were all colonies together. And when you look at Singapore, at their economy, and look at ours, all right? They are eons ahead of us. Because 34% of their population is foreign. 34%. They have opened up the economy. And as a result of opening up the economy, everybody in Singapore flourish.
But before Singapore opened the economy, they made sure that their people were able to compete. And they made sure that education was one of the key drivers of that competition.
But by opening up the economy, but hear me out, by opening up the economy and bringing in foreigners, right? Their citizens had to be competitive because of the foreign influence.
Are you putting down young Bahamians? Wait, slow down.
Okay.
Are you saying that young Bahamians are now not able to compete?
No, I'm not saying
So you mentioned this about three times now. I'm listening to you.
No.
What are you saying?
I'm not saying that, I'm saying that before Singapore opened the economy, they ensured that a key part of their national development was educating their people.
That is what happened in the Bahamas.
That's all I'm saying.
That is what happened in the Bahamas.
I'm not saying that Bahamians cannot compete,
But what are you saying?
What I'm saying is that people feel excluded from the economy.
How?
That's what I'm saying. People feel excluded from the economy.
But how are you excluded? What can Quinton do today that no other Bahamian can do? Listen, man, we have a growing cadre of young professionals in almost every sphere in the society. You want to talk about architecture or engineering
Particularly medicine.
or law or medicine or information technology, wherever you want. If you want to talk journalism, wherever you want to go, we have cadres of well-qualified Bahamians. Why do they feel disempowered?
Mr. Jones, we could have a very honest conversation in regards to the economy of the Bahamas, where people believe that in the process of attaining majority rule, I believe there was a trade-off where we got the politics.
No, sir.
Oh, but let me rationalize my argument, right?
No.
Where because
You start off wrong.
No, but let me explain my premise. Where people believe that we attain the politics of our country, whilst the others control the economy.
I'm going to ask you, like Sir Lyndon asked me one time, and I say people believe. Who are these people?
Yeah.
What are these people you talking about?
Listen,
Mr. Rahming.
Wait, let me give an example.
Go ahead.
You're here for Stanley Beers Aubrey?
No.
You're here for Ronald Aubrey?
You never heard of them.
You're here for General Agency? They were commissioned agencies that control food. They're non-existent. Your Taylor Industries? They're non-existent because there's been an economic transformation of the economy. Why do you think you why do you think the southwestern part of New Providence is the most populated part of our country because of the Carmichael Road area, right? All I know my black businesses, right? That is what happened in the second half of the 20th century, from 67 to about 92.
If you want leadership, you need to take leadership.
Agreed.
You know, people just don't give
give
you
power.
leadership. You take leadership. You need to seek to empower yourself. Ain't nobody give me nothing.
No,
Wait,
agree,
I had to go out there and work
And sell yourself.
and sell myself and to be aggressive. Nobody give me nothing.
No, but
As a matter of fact, people who look like me try to keep me back. I had to go out there and make it happen. And all I'm saying to you, young people need to become proactive and make things happen.
But I think.
Okay? And not sit back
but-
and say that, oh, they are excluding us.
no.
They are not excluding you at all. The Sunshine Boys that you mentioned, nobody excluded them.
Yes, they went forward and do it.
They were proactive. They went out and they made things happen. Today, they are perhaps the most successful group in the country because they went out and made it happen. Don't sit back and say, oh, they're excluding us from the economy. That's nonsense.
And I agree, and that's why I had said that's why we as a generation, and this is why I think that this is needed, to push forward. You cannot,
Yes.
I'm a person,
Yes.
and I'm sure that Latrae, we're not going to look for a handout.
Yes.
We're going to go out there and do it. And like I said, that is how you look at the past and see what they have done.
Your
to move our
$1,000
country.
plus the trays,
Right.
the 1,000, that's
but-
two. And then your other buddies, that's three. And the other buddy, that's four. And make it happen.
Yeah, but
agree.
I understand that the collectivism approach to development, right? But I'm just saying, right? You asked me a question. Why do people feel a particular way, right? During the political process, when we talk to people, when we have these town halls, we have these branch meetings, I'm just simply saying what I hear.
Yeah, because
People feeling that they are excluded from or have restrictions on the economy, but they can't advance.
no, we have a problem, a psychological problem, I'm putting it to you, and you can answer, where people expect the government to do everything for them. We have a psychological problem in the Bahamas where people feel that they ought to be given something.
Entitlement.
The sense of entitlement. And we have to disabuse young people from this sense of entitlement. We have to disabuse young people that they need a government job. We need to ensure that they understand the kind of economy that they are operating in, and they want to become leaders and entrepreneurs and look at the world as their oyster, not just the Bahamas, not to be parochial, but to be global in their thinking.
Look here,
And
let me cut you off here. You should let him tell you sometime about the fellows who grew up with him and where some of the fellows are today in this country. They're presidents of banks, heads of accounting firms, big-time engineers, right? Because the policies between 67 and 92 was policies that created upward mobility, as you talk about.
Yes.
All right? And that was done. You know how that was done? Because they brought a whole cadre of teachers from England, from the Caribbean, from Jamaica, right? To man our schools and to make secondary education available to all Bahamians. That's what changed the economy.
And I'm confident, though, that our generation does not see or want this handout, you know, this proverbial handout. Our generation is a generation of young persons in this country that want to be innovative, that want to take and go forward and get their own. I will tell you this, we've seen, I've seen,
doing it.
And we are, and like you said,
You are doing it.
power, and these stuff are never gift wrapped and given to you.
We are doing it. And we have the level of political frustration in this country today because there are a whole lot of people who want it on easy street. They want people to give them, but your generation, listen, I know a whole lot of young entrepreneurs and young lawyers and doctors and engineers. They're making it happen.
But you go back to the point.
They're making it happen. They're not being excluded from anything.
But Mr. Jones, you go back to the point. There is this political frustration.
No. But
based on the premise that people
feel that they are being excluded, and I'm making the point to you that nobody is excluding them from the economy.
All right. But I think you.
You think anybody excluded Dr. Minnis?
No.
The professional that he is, and you go in your organization, you think anybody excluded Chester Cooper?
No, but I'm saying I think we go back to just what is the general sentiment, all right? But I think you said.
But it is your job to disabuse your heads from thinking the way they are.
I think we should always show people, like say that this is a global economy with global opportunities, right? But I think you said something important. People have to understand the kind of economy that we operate in and the archipelagic nature of the Bahamas and what that means. I think when people, even as simple as we have a conversation about the challenges with BPL, right? When the PLP left office, we left office with a plan in place. A structured plan headed by Garwin Bowe, Kevin Baston, commissioned by the Prime Minister. What you have now is a administration that decided to go a different route. And I think that we are paying the consequences for policy inconsistencies when we lack that continuity in government simply because a previous administration decided to go a different route. And that's an expensive price we pay socially and economically.
As a country.
As a country.
Yes, yeah. Well, but there are many deficiencies that we can point to in government, and the deficiencies didn't just start with the Free National Movement, of course. We had some deficiencies in the previous government, all governments. But in terms of the way ahead, let's talk about the role young millennials ought to be playing in the overall quality of governance. Yes?
Well, I definitely think that the role that millennials must play, or millennials should have a seat at the table in regards to moving forward. The next cabinet, in terms of makeup of cabinet from the Progressive Liberal Party or the Free National Movement, must have millennials to the table at the cabinet level to be able to ensure and give a perspective as a representation. As you stated, if the majority makeup of the voting populace are young voters, shouldn't it be prudent enough that millennials should be at the cabinet table?
It depends on what age you're talking about.
Okay, millennials start from 1982 or 83. So those are different, and I look at it, and I'm sorry I'm a slave to history. I look at persons like both former prime ministers, who were young persons of their generation at the time that sat at cabinet.
Gentlemen, you see, I hear this argument all the time about Sir Lyndon. Sir Lyndon might have been 30-something when he took over the government, right?
37.
But Sir Lyndon was in opposition for 11 years, you know.
Yes. Remember, he lost twice.
He was in opposition with Lyndon government. He wasn't no freshman prime minister,
Agreed.
all right? He wasn't no freshman prime minister. And some of you all young people have to understand that, right? But let me finish now. You see, government is no place where you learn this on the job. You know, on the job training in government, all right?
That's the problem we have in the country.
Right. You see, ain't nobody
Too much on the
job
job
training.
training.
See, nobody had no gun to your head to say, get in politics. You decided that you want to represent people, all right? And then when you get there, right, you want people to give you a chance, all right?
Yeah.
You got to have expertise.
Yeah, you see,
So, Mr.
you decide, you 30 down.
You decide you want to run for politics.
You decide that you won the election,
Right.
and you can run
the government.
a
A $7 billion
multi-million
dollar
dollar
business.
place like BPL, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You because you happen to win.
Yeah.
Okay. No experience in business.
Right.
But because you are a millennial, you round the table,
Right.
and you figure you
should
should
run-
be.
Yeah.
Not just
Yeah.
because of age, but it has to be coupled with experience. Now, hold on.
That's the point.
Mr. Enos, you believe, or I strongly believe that a millennial at say 38, 40, who has worked in the hotel industry or who has worked inside the industrial industries at BPL, at 38 or 40, if given the opportunity, cannot run that corporation
No,
successfully?
he shouldn't run it. That's the point. The point is that the minister shouldn't run it.
No, they have
Okay? We have in our country this
thinking.
misconception
Yeah.
that because you are elected, you should automatically run a big ministry, a big corporation. You allow professionals to run it. The politician is responsible for policy. That's the policy.
Yes.
And you sit around the cabinet table and you decide the policy. You do not go in BPL or these large agencies and micromanage. And that is what we've been doing over the last 40 years.
And that's why the role of a
And
team.
that is why, that accounts for the mess that we are in.
But
Let me give you an example. There's a fellow, an Englishman, who ran a sisal farm in Andres. All right? Ran a sisal, Chamberlain, ran a sisal farm in Andres. Went back to England and became the Minister of Health in the Conservative government, and eventually became Prime Minister. All right? It was a sisal farmer. All right? But he didn't go there to try to run nothing. He went there to have policy which would disseminate to the people and bring change, right? That's the difference.
Yeah, but I think that's a miscommunication. I'm not saying this is a miscommunication. I'm not saying because you young, you should be given the keys to the BMW or whatever. I'm saying being young coupled with the experience. See, I don't want to be perceived or feel as if that I'm advocating for young persons to sit to the helm just because they're young. I'm totally against that. You have to equip yourself that you are ready, so when the opportunity arises, that you are ready to lead. So I'm not of the view, Mr. Jones and Mr. Ennis, that okay, you young, but like I said in my earlier statement, I said in the earlier statement that if a person who's been able and been in the industry for 10 to 15 years, at age 37, 38, cannot be in a position to run the corporation or whatever at that point, that's a crying shame. That this person has shown that he's ready, that he's put in this work, or female, that they once given the opportunity can excel.
See, running something and being a policy maker, two different things, you know. And anybody can be a policy maker. If the party platform is such, and they say, I'm going to make Quinton Lightbourne the minister of this, right? Your job is to ensure that the policies of your party are being carried out.
And put the right persons in place.
But you have with the right person in place, with the professionals in place.
Agreed.
That's your job.
And your job is not to go in there and to micromanage and to run it on a day-to-day basis. That is not your job. And that is what we have people doing. We have people who, because they are elected, they believe that all of a sudden they got the wisdom on everything.
The minister title is
and the man made them a minister. They never run nothing successfully in their whole lives. And they go in these ministries and these government departments, and they frustrate professional people. We have it all over the country. And that accounts for the problems that we have
Stagnation.
in many departments of the government. Yes. So not because you are young means that you are able to run something. If you are young and sitting around the table, you have to understand how the government works.
Yes.
Well, I think, fortunately, in the PLP, I can't speak for any other party, that the past administration utilize its key young persons in putting them in the government.
Yeah, the past administration was responsible for some of the same things we are complaining about.
Yes.
Well, I'm saying it's that.
Then Mr. Christie made some people ministers.
Well, I'm not speaking to the minister.
No. Let me finish.
Go before your point.
They came in and believed that they could do everything, and they frustrated the technical people who were trained in various disciplines.
All I'm saying is that the past administration positioned young people across the government in different places, on different boards and different committees, to understand and to learn that hands-on governmental experience.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Now, when it comes to cabinet minister, whether or not the fellow have the expertise or he respect technocrats, that's an individual basis. You know, people have different personalities, respond differently. How people interpret this Westminster system between the PS and the minister, that's up to many interpretations. Okay. But I think the question is, where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here? Your job as young liberals is to, you are supposed to be securing support for your party among young people.
Yes.
You all doing that?
No, I think, but we play a bigger role beyond securing young people for our party. Many young persons, people, whether you believe it or not, are the key shapers of the PLP today. Whether it's from a public relation perspective, a policy perspective, event perspective, young people play a very huge role in the party. Even on our platform committee, many of it is populated with young persons from different expertise, doctors, lawyers, agricultural fields.
No, paper stand still and let you write anything on it, but at the end of the day, you need voters.
Oh yeah,
in the booth. You need support. So you can sit in Gambia House and you can sit down and pontificate as much as you like and put things on paper. No, you gotta let me talk.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, sit down in Gambia House, pontificate and write things on paper. At the end of the day, in order for your party to win again, you need to get young people on the streets
to vote. Yeah, but in politics, you understand there's a process. You
But
have to mobilize, you got a plan, you got a great policy.
Yeah, but let me tell you something else.
Organize.
Yeah.
You heard about Mahatma Gandhi?
Yes, sir.
He's an Indian, right? But his parents migrated to South Africa. All right? And when he came back to India, you know the first thing he did? He toured India because he didn't know India. Right? If you're going to lead people, you got to know what you're leading.
Yes.
Right?
Know.
And what some of you all millennials got to do, you got to learn this country. All right? And that is the problem. That is why the southeastern Bahamas is suffering. That is why we've had skewed development, because people don't know this country. All right? And you're not going to make any major change until you learn the country. What you need to do is you all need to go on a tour of the country and understand the Bahamas.
See, and I'm glad you mentioned the Southeast Corridor of the Bahamas, right? And it's something that during my time at the Bahamas Investment Authority, there has to be a different approach in terms of investment and tracking investment. I'm of the view that Southeastern Corridor of the Bahamas should tap into Latin American markets. That should be our our agricultural hub. Because this is where we can tap into that Latin American market and diversify our economy. And I agree, that's why you have to learn your country. And that is what the progressive young liberal has been able to do. Teach young persons within the party, this is what our country is, this is what our party is about, and each one go out and reach one. And that is what the role of the PYL has been able and has been doing for years.
Very good. Okay. Thank you so very much, gentlemen. Appreciate you all being here today. And we are going to invite your opponents, people from the torch bearers on our program. We hope that they would see it fit to come on our program so that we can speak to them as well, and so they can
perhaps tell us where they see the Bahamas going as young millennials. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Godfrey.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching and listening to our program. Good evening.